I'm just going to take a few moments to share a few memories, a few feelings about Jack. I met Jack and Lydia almost 60 years ago. That's a whole lot of time. And I could spend a lot of time talking to you about that, but I'm going to try and condense it into just a little short address. They've been like a brother and sister to me ever since we first met. The first time I heard Jack play was in London. I was still living there, and he visited to play a concert with the Charles Lloyd's Quartet. It was the first time I'd heard him play live. Later that night, I was playing at a jam session at Ronnie Scott's old club, and we were playing in the middle of a tune, and I suddenly heard something change on the drums. And I looked over, and there was Jack. He'd heard about the jam session and just turned up to play some music. It felt amazing. Wow. It was like putting on a jacket that really fitted. You know, sometimes when you play with a musician, you feel that there are certain things that are understood and shared that don't need to be discussed. And that's how I felt playing with Jack. I found out that we both spent time practicing with some of the same recordings. This was before we met. When he returned to London in 1968 to play a month-long residency at the Ronnie Scott Club with the Bill Evans Trio, I was in the support band, so I got to hear him play every night. What a treat. We played together a few times in the club in the afternoon when it was closed, and he'd sometimes turn up for the first set that I was playing with the support group and sit in and play the melodica keyboard. We had a lot of fun, and we like to play with the flow of time in similar ways, sometimes deconstructing the groove but keeping the form of the song. We had so much fun that sometimes we just started laughing in the middle of the music. You gotta have fun. During the end of the residency, during the end of the residency, Miles Davis came to the club. And a few weeks later, I received a call to come to New York and play a gig with him at the Count Basie Club in Harlem. Jack met me at the airport, and he told me I could stay with him and Lydia until I found a place of my own. I'll always be grateful for their generosity and kindness. I was a stranger in a strange land, and they made me feel part of their family immediately and helped me connect with the musical community and New York life. I slept on that couch for a few weeks until they kind of gently suggested that it might be time for me to find a place of my own, which I did. Jack came to music during a time when so many new musical concepts were developing. He grew up in Chicago, started playing piano at an early age, and then began playing drums when he was a teenager. He played a wide variety of gigs there with local and visiting artists. And in the early 1960s, he connected with Moorehead Richard Abrams and the musical community that would eventually become the Association for the Advancement of Creative Music, the AACM. They were developing many innovative musical ideas and new approaches to the music. Musicians were expanding their musical language and drawing inspiration from many different genres and cultures. The music that was developing at that time was called the New Wave or the Avant-Garde, and it was in this creative environment that Jack developed his playing and composing. In 1966, he made the move to New York, and later that year joined the Charles Lloyd Quartet, recording the very successful album Forest Flower. It was recorded live at the Monterey Jazz Festival. It was released in 1967. The album introduced his playing to a worldwide audience, and he toured the world with the group. They were one of the first jazz groups to play in the Soviet Union, which was a groundbreaking event. After leaving the band in 1968, he recorded his first album as a leader and continued to work as a sideman, playing and recording with so many great artists. Early in 1969, he joined the Miles Quintet, and of course, that was a wonderful moment for me to be playing with him in that band. The music was continuously evolving from gig to gig. The set list included evolved versions of some of the songs from Miles's early repertoire, along with the newer compositions he'd been recording. I remember playing with the band at the Antibes Festival in the summer of '69, and Miles would always start songs from the trumpet, and in the middle of the set, he started playing bop, 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 bop. And Jack and I looked at each other and we said, uh-oh, here we go. You know, he had not played that song, at least while I was in the band. And that was the only time we ever played it. But it was in the original tempo. And we looked at each other and thought, man, we are going to have some fun with this. And we did. In August that year, we both took part in the recording of the album Bitches Brew, which after his, And after its release, it had a huge impact on the music scene and introduced Miles's music to a whole new audience. The music really connected with young people, and we played concerts and festivals in places like Shea Stadium and Madison Square Garden, and to 500,000 people at the Isle of Wight Festival, sharing the bill with artists like Jimi Hendrix and the Grateful Dead. Following our time with Miles, Jack and I kept on playing together and recording. His playing and composing continued to develop and grow, and he put several bands together, which you've heard about tonight. So many great bands, so many beautiful recordings, so many feelings shared. He believed in passing on what he'd learned to future generations. He believed in the power of music to inject positive energy in the world, and he believed the communal experience on the bandstand was so important with the audience, and it was a unifying event. He was very aware of the important role music and culture can play in improving people's lives, and spent his life seeking some eternal truths and looking for answers to some of life's big questions. Jack's playing was deeply rooted in the drum tradition. And with that as his foundation, he created a distinctive and deeply personal approach. He was a masterful accompanist, a consummate group player, always immersed in the flow of music when he played. He had the courage to try anything he thought was creative and interesting. I think he felt that musical expression should have no boundaries. I remember a gig we played with Stan Getz at the Rainbow Room at the top of the Rockefeller Center in New York City. Jack took a bucket of ice on stage with him, and in the middle of his drum solo, he started bouncing the ice cubes off his drum set. You can imagine the audience at the Rainbow Room was a little surprised, I'll say that. But it just showed me the imagination and courage. I mean, he was playing some rhythm with those ice cubes, I can tell you. But, you know, he would think of something to do and would have the courage to jump right in and do it. His playing inspired generations of musicians, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to play with some of the amazing drummers that have followed in his footsteps and built on the musical legacy that he created. Music is much more than just the notes and rhythms. It's animated by the feelings and the life experiences of the musicians creating it. Jack may not be with us in body, but his beautiful spirit lives through his music and in the hearts and memories of all the many people who loved him. Well, in 1993, Jack and I and the wonderful pianist, the late Jerry Allen, went on tour with Betty Carter. both Jack and I at different times have played with Betty, and she's one of the great artists in the music. She was a whole school of music. Young musicians would come through that band, and when they came out of the band, they were better than when they went in. She was an incredible teacher on the bandstand. Playing with her, you had to be ready to play. Anyway, the opportunity to do this tour was just wonderful. And we toured Europe, played many gigs together, and just had a wonderful time. And so we have a treat for you now. We're going to play a video from that tour with Betty Carter, Jack DeJohnette, Jerry Allen, and myself.